C D E F G H I R three.
Yeah. All right. So today we're gonna review Iron Man 3.
The conclusion of this trilogy in Marvel movies.
So the movie starts off in an early flashback in a New Year's Eve party, where Tony Stark meets with this woman named Maya Henson, and she apparently is the creator of this entire weird thing called Extremis, which turns people's faces red and evil or something.
Yeah, that's a little weird. And then basically we get introduced to
Aldrich Killian, who actually offers something for Tony's company.
Well, I am just gonna call Glenn.
But Tony refuses. Anyway, he keeps having flashbacks
From the Avengers movie where he almost died, seriously. And he's basically remembering, well, that he built a lot of armors. I think he's up to 43 in this movie. And basically, Happy Hogan is sick, played by Jon Favreau, who is, for some reason, not played by...
And apparently now Tony makes a big mistake.
Yeah, seriously, he reveals his freaking address to everybody, idiot.
Especially to the Mandarin, because he threatened the Mandarin, and now the Mandarin attacks his mansion.
And for record, when I said played by, I meant for some reason not directing the movie.
And yeah, he uses helicopters and blows missiles and everything. And that happens to have where Pepper Potts actually puts on the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, we get to finally see Pepper Potts as Rescue in this one, kinda.
And that's where Tony ends up in a place in Tennessee where he gets stuck in a bunch of snow and ends up fighting another person with Extremis on her face.
Yeah, basically, this one is even more evil than the last one because she literally almost succeeds in killing the guy.
And of course, he gets betrayed, but later, after escaping, he helps a lot of civilians come out of the Air Force One airplane.
And they all work together and basically will save themselves, kind of.
And this was the president of the movie who saw that Mandarin threat.
Yeah, and basically, in turns, well,
he ends up being put into the armor.
Yeah, in this Iron Patriot thing. And basically, in turns, it starts an all-out war, and all Tony's armors work together and replace the Avengers for reasons I'll get to later. Anyway, so basically, in turns, with the help of this random little boy, basically, he basically succeeds, and, well, you know.
And then that's where he meets the real Mandarin.
Ugh.
Here we go.
Don't get me started on that.
After he beats him up, that's pretty much the movie. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the movie.
Yeah, we don't even need to explain it. I don't care if we're rushing this one. It's just simply because this review was taken down like 3 times already.
Alright, so let's begin talking about something which is our problem with the Mandarin in this movie.
Okay, for starters, like I tried in the last review saying that, he is not the fucking Mandarin. Seriously, the Mandarin is meant to be this ancient Chinese, like, warrior figure of sorts, basically, hunting down the 10 Bakugan rings in order to basically get supreme power. And basically, he was one of Tony's rivals in turns. And basically, that is the Mandarin. And the guy that looked like that was going to be the Mandarin in the movie seemed right for the part. But then, basically, in turns, bam. Nope.
It's Aldrich Killian.
Who is just basically...
some former friend of Pepper Potts in this movie.
And basically, that is just 100% wrong for the part. That is not the Mandarin. I hope one, seriously, is just wrong. No wonder this movie got mixed reviews when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... And on top of that, basically, 2 people, what was it? 2 people basically, it took Tony, like, for 2 people to basically almost die, and one, I think, did in the end, in order for him to finally, you know, able to get all of his armors together like that at the end.
Yeah.
That was a little off. And on top of that, this kid in the movie, who's actually confirmed to return in Infinity War.
He is.
I actually really like this kid a lot. I mean, he's actually probably one of my favorite things in this movie because we kind of have a mini Tony almost.
It's also, yeah, not just that, because this kid, like, you know, he looks up to Tony, and Tony's, at first, Tony just wants to, you know, get him out of his life, but he ends up being a really good friend to him by the end of the movie.
If I didn't know any better, I would say that was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I wish that kid ended up being Spider-Man, not the kid from Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I'm still going to have second thoughts on that. There's no way that kid in Iron Man 2 is fucking Peter Parker.
I believe this kid more.
Yeah.
Seriously, it actually makes 100% more sense.
We've already covered some of our thoughts of what's the current Spider-Man.
Ugh. I'm just gonna say it, spoiler. He sucks.
Yes.
But anyway, wrong movie.
The point is, Iron Man.
Yeah, basically in turns as for his conclusion of the trilogy. I kind of wish he had another movie, honestly, because I feel like
I really want to know, is there going to be an Iron Man 4?
Robert Downey Jr. said about a year
He
ago.
would actually, oh yeah, I remember. He actually would be willing to do one more, if I recall.
Yeah, well, at least one more Iron Man movie. But nowadays, it's like instead of another, it's like he gets these prominent roles. And,
Well, as you people saw him in Spider-Man Homecoming.
And Captain America Civil War, he got more prominent roles in those movies rather than in Iron Man 4. Which is kind of why the Captain America trilogy, and most recently the Thor trilogy, seem to end with these big bangs. But this one, on the other hand, feels a little more contained.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like a traditional Phase 2 movie, and basically Phase 2 is honestly my least favorite phase of the three so far in terms of the MCU.
It's also interesting seeing the Iron Patriot in this movie.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, I have an interesting theory, by the way, why I said the whole where are the other Avengers? Well, here's a little theory. I think, don't quote me on this, that Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, and Captain America the Winter Soldier all take place at the same time. That's basically the best way to explain it. Why Thor, Cap, are not really, there to help them in this movie. It would make the most sense. But that's just my opinion. There's no proof on it. It's never confirmed. I mean, the timeline in the MCU is the most confusing thing in history.
But still, we're still going back on that whole thing. That kid from Iron Man 2, there's no way that's Peter Parker.
Sorry, I don't care.
You can't claim it that...
He's too young.
Late. That was 2010, people.
Yeah, I know we're kind of going into a mini Iron Man 2 rant in the Iron Man 3 review, but...
Well, it's still part of the big problem. Still Iron Man, guys.
Yeah, here's the thing. That kid is too young.
There's no way that kid in Iron Man 2 could be the Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming.
It's not. He's a little too young. Dude, I don't care if Spider-Man Homecoming takes place 8 years later. The problem with that is, basically, if that's really the case, the kid would be a year or two too young, because Peter Parker was 15 in Homecoming.
Yeah.
He'd be a little too young for the role. He'd be 13, 14, something like that.
You guys are way too late. That's
and I'm
2010.
I'm looking at you, Kevin Feige. I don't care if you're claiming it's true. No. Don't even try it. So, and you too, Holland.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the kid in Iron Man 3, on the other hand.
Oh, he was fantastic, and like you said, I'm also excited to see him in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah.
Yeah, this kid is fantastic. It's almost like, well, a mini Tony. He's almost like a son Tony never really had. He actually, feels like another form of Tony Stark. If Tony Stark was turned into a kid, I'd say this kid's perfect, and he reminds me more of Spider-Man.
And they make a really good team up together. Of how he always looks up to Tony and wants to help him out.
Yeah, and basically he if anything makes them more sense. And in general, I'm glad he got a happy ending in the end of the movie.
Really?
Yeah, remember when he got that.
I remember. Tony gave all of his gadgets to him because he also wanted to be an engineer, if I recall.
Yeah, it was, and that's honestly, I was actually happy for that kid. He was probably
that was really good.
Yeah, and if anything, I think they took something from Iron Man 3 here into Civil War. Once Tony was like, "You're done."
Yeah,
that happened again. That happened
in Civil War.
Yeah, good riddance.
But of course, even in Spider-Man Homecoming, he takes away the suit.
Yeah, but seriously though, if you really want to review Homecoming, we'll get to it.
Oh yeah, and also I would like to mention we recently watched Thor Ragnarok. And yes, he will return in Infinity War because obviously after the post-credit scene they would say that.
Yeah, but in terms of the big guys and in terms of the guys with the main trilogy so far, Iron Man, Cap, Thor, I Wish the Hulk.
It was kind of interesting that Jon Favreau, who played Happy Hogan, didn't direct this film.
Yeah, so I was trying to say that we rushed it that bit.
Yeah, but he was still able to play Happy Hogan because, he was Happy Hogan in the other two.
And he reprised the role again for Homecoming, which honestly was a bit of a shock. And for record, though, since we're mentioning Homecoming a lot, I hate that title. I'm just going to flat out say it. I hate the title. But a rant for another day.
Wait till we get to the Spider-Man Homecoming review. Yeah, all you Tom Holland fans aren't going to like it.
I can't wait for all the dislikes.
Oh, yeah. Come at us, haters.
Yeah, come at us, boy. Anyway, in terms of Iron Man 3, on the other hand, another thing I really like is seeing Pepper Potts in,
the Iron Man suit.
That is freaking cool, because in the comics, she becomes basically what is known as Rescue. Basically, another, Iron Man of sorts. And if anything, I get the feeling if Iron Man 4 happens, I honestly want Pepper to be in the suit a lot. Because if anything, it honestly makes sense in terms for, her to be a hero. I mean, they even adapted that into Iron Man Armored Adventures, so do you remember that cartoon? And in turns, if anything, honestly, I really did like that detail. And basically, in terms the terrorist threats in this movie, I will admit it was original for the MCU at the time.
I just can't believe I just don't know what to say about the Mandarin, though.
That was the worst.
It's just like, it just doesn't feel right.
It's not right, honestly.
It's not the Mandarin, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I
I mean, he already gave his description of what the Mandarin was.
Yeah, this guy is just
It's not the Mandarin. I wouldn't suspect Aldrich Killian to be him.
Yeah, that guy was... I mean, I don't care. Fun twist or no, it doesn't work here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder...
And plus, he was like in the beginning of this movie, and I don't think we got hint anything that he was actually the Mandarin. If anything, he was using that actor terrorist guy to pretend to be the Mandarin.
Which honestly looked like the Mandarin.
He was the appropriate guy for the Mandarin. I mean, what would you do if you looked up Iron Man 3 Mandarin? You probably get that terrorist guy more than Aldrich Killian.
Yeah, this just makes...
I still say that guy's the Mandarin. Despite him in the movie literally saying he was an actor or not.
Seriously, this is like where the point where the MCU movies started to blur together a bit. Like when I said the Ant-Man review, it was the one in Phase 2 that stood out the most. Phase 2 for me just blurs together. Like Iron Man 3, Winter Soldier, Thor: The Dark World, and Age of Ultron even, is just, I feel like they all just clutter a bit, which is why I say that those the previous three that I mentioned basically take place at the same time, and the Age of Ultron's like immediately after, because it just makes the most sense. They just clutter the movies for me a bit.
Okay, yeah.
As for this movie itself, despite the flaws and apparently many Homecoming rants, this movie on the other hand is honestly better than 2. I'll give it that.
It is.
But it's just the problem. It's just ironic to say that the original Iron Man's the best one of the 3.
It is.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah. It's just dang. I thought the sequels were meant to be better and better, not worse, I guess.
Well,
and this one,
a lot of movies tend to go like that. You know that, Mike.
I know. But this is freaking Robert Downey Jr. He's still giving it his all. And one thing I did forgot to say. The arc reactor was removed in this movie.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. On the one hand, that is interesting in terms. It's basically like Tony finally accepting, who he is partially, and he's trying to basically, just be a better person. And if anything, the arc reactor by this point was almost a bit of a hindrance, because he did find a way to cure himself and basically allow him to live without the arc reactor. And I am actually happy about that, and I did like the symbolism at the end of the movie with that. And it shows basically that he was over the stress that he was in the beginning of the movie, basically from the events of the Avengers movie. So in a way, you could argue, considering Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man, flat out said in an early thing of the Avengers that one thing he wanted for the Avengers was actually to be told in Tony's perspective. So if anything, you could arguably say Avengers could have also been Iron Man 2.5, because this could have potentially been a conclusion of 4. But yeah, but that'd be a little weird to say.
Okay, but yeah, that's Iron Man 3 for you guys.
In a nutshell, a rushed mess of a film that's still really dang entertaining.
It is.
The kid is phenomenal.
The kid is great. If only they could have fixed the Mandarin a bit.
Seriously, that's what hinders this movie. I mean,
we already talked about our Mandarin thoughts.
Yeah, overall, the acting is great, the story is great, and it's just an overall entertaining film. I would still recommend it if you're a hardcore Iron Man fan, but just don't expect a 100% faithful adaptation from the original source material.
But yeah, all right.
That's basically Iron Man 3. What's up?
Dude, we're late.
Late for what?
You know what?
Iron Man 4?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But don't tell anybody. Yeah. We got an exclusive preview. Let's go.
Yeah, see ya.
Iron Man 4.
With a purple logo.
Iron Man 4, bitches. Hey, why don't you use your guitar to imitate that entire Malachi? Take it away! Anyway, here's real proof that
the Phase 2 Marvel movies were clearly blurring together at this point. Look at the Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World posters. Anyway, so basically, one thing I like about this movie is the chemistry between Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth as Thor and Loki.
As you know, Thor and Loki, they really play off each other really well in this movie.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know how Loki became the most popular character in the MCU.
I mean, after the events of the Avengers.
Yeah, but it's clearly understandable.
And, of course, Malachi, who is our main villain, played by the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston himself, basically, in turns. And he does a pretty dang good job as the villain. It's just I feel like he was overshadowed a bit by, Thor and Loki. And in turns, basically, another one who's interesting is Jane Foster, aka Natalie Portman, aka Padme from the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah. She actually was pretty interesting in this movie.
Yeah, for one, she actually finds a way to actually get superpowers by accident.
And before we mention before that, she is actually angry that she didn't see Thor for a long time because he was back in Asgard.
Yeah, and basically, and so imagine like you're back in New York, and you know you promised you would see her again, yet you return and you don't. I would be pissed too.
And of course, Loki looking like the main character in The Room.
Oh, don't get me started on that movie.
But I will like to actually say, well, first off, nice Stan Lee cameo, by the way.
Yeah.
I would like to actually say that one of my favorite scenes in this movie is actually seeing Loki turn into, I don't know, Captain America, where they actually got Chris Evans back.
Yeah, they freaking got Chris Evans to do that. Now, that was freaking awesome. And I gotta admit, that line itself was written by Josh Whedon, so that was actually pretty cool. The director of the Avengers directs that scene.
And you can really understand her anger after not seeing Thor for a long time.
Yeah, it's been 2 years, and he promises to return, and yet he
doesn't. He was staying at Asgard for a long time.
Yeah, but then he returns to New York to fight against Loki, and, well...
disappears again?
That's kind of rude, if anything. Anyway, so in turns, one thing I do understand a bit is, the naked guy in the middle of in the beginning of the movie.
Yes, there's actually an explanation to that.
Yeah, remember at the end of Thor when he got possessed?
He was basically being under control.
Yeah, and so the effects here are like after effects of it, because the main thing about him being, mind controlled is more in, the Avengers, not here. We'll talk about that another time. Anyway, another thing I will admit that I like about the movie itself is, to be honest, it's a little hard to describe because there's a scene towards the end where it's just like when Thor and Malachi are fighting each other, it's like they're going all across the 9 realms. Now that is freaking amazing. And in turns, it's like, yeah, that's just amazing.
It also shows another bonding chemistry. Alright, first off, this review is sponsored by
Fiji water.
Enjoy the show.
And the water.
Anyway, let's talk about
So if you're wondering why we're kind of not really talking about the plot, we just saw this movie a little while ago, so it's just we're
also because we were in preparation for going to be watching Thor Ragnarok, which we've already seen.
Yeah, so we're kind of a little fuzzy
and
at the moment.
this we're still wearing the same clothes because this is the double feature review
from Iron Man 3, baby.
Right.
Anyway, so sorry, why we're not really talking, the story plot.
Right.
Basically, if you're wondering the real plot of this movie itself, it's let me think. Okay, so it's basically Thor and Loki have to work together to defeat Malachi because Malachi is trying to basically get this essence of sorts that is basically going to jam the 9 realms sort of, I guess, together. And basically in turns, and Jane Foster gets caught in the middle of it because basically she gets those superpowers in the middle, and so as a result she has to go to Asgard to be sort of taking care of it itself, and the Dark World is in there, and time for an infamous Michael rant. A.k.a. the Dark World itself. This should not have been called Thor the Dark World.
Because the Dark World doesn't come until
oh yeah, it was basically 2/3 of the way into the movie.
It was really late to the party for that title.
Yeah, and they hardly even spent time in there, and basically in turns, they should have called it Thor the Cloudy World, not Thor the Dark World. When I think Thor the Dark World, I think basically of, the area being, dark. I'm just saying.
Dark.
Yeah. This is dark. You got the point.
Anyway,
so in terms, the chemistry in with this is really dang interesting. Loki himself is still the highlight of this movie. And
I do like the chemistry and bond between the two.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth play off each other pretty dang well. And Natalie Portman, I'm really glad, honestly, that she and Thor got that happy ending. Basically in turns after the powers are gone, and basically she loses them. This time around, however, Thor does stay on Earth and presumably stays with her for at least till the events of the Age of Ultron, which honestly is something that is indeed, very important. Because, it basically concludes the Jane Foster arc in terms...
Oh, this movie was a year after the Avengers film.
Yeah, and basically in terms, and like I said in the Iron Man 3 review, I still believe this took place at the same time as Iron Man 3.
Even because those two came out in the same year.
And basically they're just a few months apart, and the poster is identical.
Seriously, no wonder.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously, I'm kind of now wondering why the Winter Soldier poster didn't have Scarlett Johansson doing that to Chris Evans.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
Yeah, that was just more confusing, if anything. What are you doing?
Also, we forgot to show you guys something in that Iron Man 3 review.
I was actually Robert Downey Jr. at one point.
Yeah, apparently Michael actually turned down the role for the...
Yeah, they wanted to recast Robert Downey Jr., but
for Iron Man 3, but they got Michael to do it.
Yeah, remember that, dude? That was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
Don't ask. It was 2013. It was a weird time.
Yeah, a weird time, like the 80s, man.
Yeah, anyway, so in terms... Another thing I will admit I do like is, well, that this movie takes place on Asgard for the most part, in comparison to the last movie, whereas basically in turns, because we didn't get to see a lot of Asgard, so it's actually nice to really see a good chunk of it. But the thing is, this movie is not called Thor the Asgard. This is called Thor the Dark World.
And once again, Thor the Dark World. The Dark World doesn't come till like 2/3 of the movie.
And we don't spend enough time in there. Even the final battle's not even really in the Dark World.
It's not even that even... I mean, it's not even that long in the Dark World. I mean, you could call this a different title.
Yeah, I wasn't never really a big fan of them subtitling the movies, honestly. But I always just accepted it. But this one in particular pisses me off the most. Just call it Thor 2.
Yeah, Thor 2, just like Iron Man 2.
Yeah, just like, this did not need a dark...
Or Deadpool 2, which is coming later.
Yeah, I'm just saying, MCU, you didn't need to subtitle this one.
Yeah, Thor the Dark World...
It's not really a Dark World movie.
Thor would have been fine. Thor 2.
Thor 2. This is just Thor 2.
Thor 2.
And basically, I prefer these two movies together as a duology. Ironically enough...
Yeah, there's something after, well, we saw Ragnarok. We actually considered that Thor Ragnarok was different than the other two movies.
Yeah, because of a lot of things that happened in it.
We actually considered that...
its own movie.
Its own movie because the first two is its own duology. Even though this is technically the third film of this trilogy, we still consider it a duology because of the first two. The first two...
The two of them feel contained together.
I mean, take a look at both of the first two posters of the Thor movies and then look at Ragnarok.
That is completely dang different.
It went from 2010's movies to an 80s film.
Yeah, that's another story on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry also, though, why we just were talking about our general thoughts, in comparison to, we just saw Dark World,
Yeah, we were preparing for the Ragnarok. In which, guys, we actually seen it the day before it came out.
Yeah.
The fan premiere at the...
Yeah, so you're wondering, if this review is coming out late, editing issues.
Yeah.
So, the clip, if pictures don't match right, it's that reason alone. Sorry. As for basically this movie itself, it's, solid. The story itself is basically, they have to basically defeat Malachi, and I gotta admit, Chris Eccleston does a pretty dang good job in turns, and if anything, this is just a solid dang flick.
I think Thor Dark World, I can understand why you think it's your favorite Marvel movie.
It was my favorite Marvel movie at one point, before Ant-Man came along. And at the moment, time we're recording this is number 3. You'll probably figure out Ant-Man was my number 1. Did you want number 2, though? You'll find out another day.
It's Ant-Man.
No, that's number 1.
Oh.
I'll give you another hint, though. It's a Marvel movie we just saw a while ago.
Oh, yeah, it's Thor Ragnarok. We said it was the number 2nd. Number 2.
And that's another story on its own. As for, well, this movie, on the other hand, I like it. It's solid, and if anything, it is...
It's just a good Thor movie, but yeah, I would agree. Call it Thor 2.
Just Thor 2. I don't like the subtitles.
Well, it's just
But this one in particular is just wrong. Not needed.
I mean, considering the Dark World isn't even that necessary in the title, considering it didn't even come in right away.
Yeah, I mean, look at Captain America Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier shows up kind of quickly.
Well, yeah, because it's showing the origin.
So that works.
And Iron Man from 2008 is just called Iron Man. Because the same thing with
Guardians of the Galaxy.
And Thor from 2011.
Guardians of the Galaxy. They're
In
Guardians
general, the first movies, I mean, even with Captain America, the first Avenger makes sense.
Because I don't care that one being subtitle made sense. This one on your hand just doesn't.
Thor: The Dark World, I understand that the Dark World is in the movie, but it's not the entire movie is around the Dark World, if I can recall.
Yeah, this movie is just... It's solid.
It's a great movie on the
It's a great movie, but...
I would consider it just calling it Thor 2.
Thor 2. It's just... Why can't we just call it that? I mean, it made more sense.
Yeah. Still
Also,
known as Thor 2 because it is the second Thor film.
It takes place after the events of the Avengers.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the Marvel movies aren't canon with each other.
Yeah, honestly, I like shared universes, but dang, dude, Thor Ragnarok's number 17 in this shared universe. Now that is freaking nuts that 17 movies are in canon with each other.
That's crazy, man. But yeah,
That's our, I guess, our
review on
randomish one.
Thor: The Dark World. Anyway, yeah, this was our double feature reviews, guys. Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. And Iron Man 3 we just needed to get up because we could not deal with the copyright problems.
So basically that one we just were handled professionally, but Dark World we were just like, oh shit, we gotta do this. And it was just like, we're just, I guess you could say we're a little not right with this one.
Right.
We're gonna one day do a redo of this movie, just because, you know, this is more of a bonus, but we'll one day redo Dark World.
We will do redo Dark World, but enjoy
This-
what we got so
this
far.
is like draft one.
Yeah. So
This is our sort of review.
Alright. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, just I guess if you're a Thor fan, you'll enjoy this movie. But
And I know anyone who still has not seen Thor Ragnarok, go check it out. It's a great film.
yeah, and generally, Thor, he's a great character. I enjoy the chemistry, and if anything, I wish Jane Foster, spoiler, I guess, for Ragnarok, I wish Jane Foster was in that film. Sorry, now.
Yeah, I was so surprised seeing that, but we'll talk about that when we do eventually review Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, this is the Dark World on the other hand, and the world is not that dark. It's called the Cloudy World. If you really want a subtitle, called Thor: The Cloudy World.
Marvel's Thor 2. Alright, that's
Thor
pretty
2:
much
The
our
Cloudy World.
Alright.
Yeah, sorry.